And welcome to the Ask More Questions podcast. I'm here today with Transvangelical, but we can also go with a name, Alycia, if that's whichever one you prefer. I like the funny handles,
Yeah, I think most
because
people know me by Transvangelical at this
yeah,
point.
okay,
I've
so
even
we can.
I've made friends that are like it's been like months and they're like it could like friends I met online and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know your real name. I literally think Transvangelical when we talk to each other."
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a lovely name too. I really do because I mean, mine is I'm Gen X and then I'm also an ex-Christian. So smash those two together. And then but you can also call me Gene. Um so we're recording this episode on the last day of what I can recall to be the shittiest year of my existence.
It
Um
is definitely up there.
yeah. Although we should add that years and days are, I mean, days are not really arbitrary, but years are, who knows? We don't know what year it really is or whatever. So it's all good. But there is something about the ending of, of a cycle and then the start of a new one that I think, I think that we all find some different layers of meaning. What about you? What just talking about like the year. I mean, I don't really like going into resolutions but I like goals. I like things to shoot for. So, what do you got shooting that you're shooting for in the upcoming year?
Uh, Um, I'm not actually really sure. uh I I kind of got some of like some bigger accomplishments done this last year, and I haven't really thought too much what necessarily comes next. As far as transvangelical, so I don't necessarily have a New Year's resolution or anything. Um, partially because that like to be completely honest, it's difficult to have like goal like feeling like you can set goals for yourself whenever you're a trans person in America right now. Like you don't know how long until they, you know, start using ice to round up trans people. like, yeah, and I say that like that should be something that nobody um could fathom happening, but we kind of live in America where that is a real possibility whenever you consider the fact that there are parts of the government, both state and federal, that are trying to get information on trans people and creating records of trans people. It's kind of a scary time. so, I don't know. It's weird to be like, yeah, in 2026, like 2026, I'm hoping to make it to 2027. And
Yeah.
that's kind of my goal. And
Okay.
hopefully, hopefully certain people's health takes a dive in 2026.
Yeah, I follow along with that. I mean, I don't share the exact experience, obviously, but the I do have a similar like feeling of being unable to plan things very
Mhm.
well. If I maybe a big thing, maybe it's like, oh, like this year, we went to go see ACDC in concert because I'm like, let's face it, these guys, yeah,
I
probably
don't
not
have
going to be
many
doing this
left.
for much longer.
yeah.
Yeah, so I better do this. It was kind of a bucket list type thing, and we made that happen, and it was great. And so, but the rest of the year, complete shit. So things fell apart, things broke. I feel like we just dealt with a lot of health issues in the family, and it was terrible. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, really, getting through the year sounds like
It sounds
like a
amazing at
good
this point.
goal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And there was plenty of like personal things that happened for me in 2025. It's like, honestly, if I don't have to achieve anything in 2026 and just, coast, I would love that. That's That would be amazing. So
it is.
that's my goal is to have a less stressful 2026.
I
Um,
think that's yeah. Well,
yeah.
set that bar then. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go for it. So, and I'll go along. I'll add yours to mine because yes, less stressful would be wonderful. So
It would be amazing.
Yeah. So you want to get back in? We talk about your story. I don't know. First, we kind of talked a little bit offline about kind of where you are, and I don't know if you want to get as far as like your beliefs today, but maybe we'll get to that. It's up to you if you want to start off with that and then tell your story, or we could tell your story and then get to that. I'll leave it up to you. What do you think?
We can start off with that.
Okay.
Where I'm at currently is, um, I still call myself a Christian for a couple of reasons. One, it really pisses conservatives off, and that's always a positive.
It is a positive, yes.
Yeah, it is. But also, um, I I have enough education in like biblical studies that I know that what we consider Christianity and the Bible isn't like it's all kind of made up from um, imperial lenses from about, you know, third century on. And there's actually something like um, really interesting and kind of encouraging once like the Bible's taken as what it's meant to be, which is ancient piece of wisdom text. uh, and that's we've turned it into, you know, our Eurocentric post Enlightenment, you know, find all the answers type thing. Whenever in reality we were supposed to read it and like debate different things to actually use wisdom to become better people. I think that's really cool. That gives me like room to be like, you know what, some of the things that Paul says is really messed up, or maybe it wasn't even Paul. Like that's okay, because the point is it's there for us to think about and accept like the parts that are actually helpful, like taking care of the poor and, you know, being against the rich. Like those are
Yeah.
really cool things that are
Those are cool
really,
things.
yeah, that really apply to today. But like also, you know, if you read the Old Testament, I don't think that raping somebody is a good way to propose to them in marriage, right? So like it's not meant to give you the right and wrongs. It's supposed to be something that you like think about, and you're supposed to seek wisdom. That's a lot of um what the Old Testament is about in the intertestamental period. And in my opinion, I think the New Testament is meant to be understood that way. Um that's not as popular of an opinion
Yeah.
anymore. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like there's part of me that's like, I call myself Christian because it pisses people off, but I also call myself Christian because they don't get to tell me what I get to believe in. Um, I go
That's
back and
that's
forth. Oh,
that's
good.
kind of uh, you hear people talking about Bible believing Christians or a real
Hmm.
Christian, and I'm like, if you could pass on a standard definition that we can all agree upon. I mean, I kind of go with what the dictionary says because I think it's the easiest way. It's like, well, are you a follower of Jesus Christ? And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, then, which is weird because whenever I grew up like Southern Baptist, which Southern Baptist then I am realizing is different than Southern Baptist today. They're still just as bad, but they have new layers of shit
Yeah.
these days. Um, and then as I got to be an adult, uh, I abandoned that and gravitated more toward what would be considered a non-denominational, which was just like, okay, this is a Baptist church with drums, or you know, they had coffee and donuts, and that was cool. Uh, but you know, so but for me, that was progressive. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it really was. You know, but and you do have a lot of uh, different ideas about what a real Christian is. And
Hmm.
it could be like, oh, no, I handle snakes, all the way down to like, oh, I'm a Christian in the sense that I like the Beatitudes. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny to try to pinpoint it down. So, I get what you're saying. So, why don't you tell us how you got there? So go all the way back. You're going to have to go deep into the place where all of our adulthood um, trauma is still dealt with, and that is your childhood. So,
I mean, I was raised in an evangelical church, non-denominational, in a small town. Um, like the
how
type
big? or how
like
small?
5,000 people in
Me
the
too.
town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Graduating class was like 120 some. Like it small.
Oh, yeah.
And like I was raised in this I was raised in a non-denominational church, but it was its own like tradition. And went to Bible college, went on to seminary, and uh, yeah, like I threw myself into Christianity and my tradition for uh, the better part of my of my life, till about probably around 30 years old. um, so like there's been a lot there, but honestly, like when we talk about deconstructing and things like that, I don't really see myself as having deconstructed. I just like learned how to study the Bible and like
Yeah.
found out, oh, like some of these things, a lot of the things that we're taught in the church, like is just it's wrong. Like to for example, like the, whenever you make a point from a passage in the Bible, like if you're making that point outside of the intended message of that, then it's out of context. For example, like in Matthew 19, whenever um, Jesus talks about male and female, they were created, and because of this, a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and like that entire thing that people use to be like, see, Jesus upholds a gender binary, and it's like, let's go back here because he's actually talking about divorce, and specifically, he's talking about how men use divorce to mistreat women, and what he's actually talking about is like being on equal footing between men and women within a very patriarchal society. To then take that and be like, see, he's talking about trans people, like that's completely out of context. Like,
Whoa, that's a leap, I would say.
yeah, it,
Whenever you say to talk about trans people, I'm like, no, that's
no,
yeah,
he's specifically talking about marriage, and so like to take that out of to take that and to be like, see, Jesus upholds gender binaries, like that's bad hermeneutics, but that's the type of hermeneutics that is rampant in evangelicalism. And so like it's more that I just learned how to study the Bible, and I didn't need people to like tell me what I needed to conclude. And um which to be honest, like there's a lot of people that will say exactly what I said and be like hyper conservative. Um but I don't know. Maybe I just think very highly of myself, that I think that I can study my way out of um bad theology. But that's
yeah,
kind of how I got here. Um and just like I said, the Bible wasn't meant to give us right answers. It was meant to make us think about the world around us. And once you start doing that, it's really hard to hang on to some of the uh like hyper ideologies that a lot of people say are Christian, that I don't necessarily know how you like some of them. I don't know how you get there. Like I don't know how you support ICE and read the Gospels at all. But
yeah.
people do.
Um, well, I would argue that they probably haven't read anything,
That's fair.
uh,
Yeah,
um, because I think if you press anyone who says that, I don't think you're going to get into a very deep theological debate. You know how to read some Greek, right? And
I can translate Greek and Hebrew.
okay, yeah. So I
Yeah,
don't think those people are going to be in that the same ballpark. I do
yeah.
not. I could use Google and look at what it gives me, and then go, I
Hmm.
don't know, maybe that's right. But I wouldn't claim to know how to read Greek or Hebrew. So yeah, I just don't think those people that are citing
Yeah,
that
probably not.
are are at the same level. Um, okay, so were you a big Bible nerd then whenever you were younger?
I've always been a Bible nerd,
Yeah,
especially Old Testament. Um, yeah, like uh, I could tell you random like stories and stuff from the Bible that most like high schoolers wouldn't know about.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I was enough of a Bible nerd that I went to Bible college and then went on to seminary, like, and
That
thought
is,
that was
yeah, that's pretty nerdy. I mean, if
that's pretty
you,
nerd.
what was your goal with going to, well, eventually seminary? Were you going to get into ministry?
I actually wanted to get into teaching the Bible at like a
Okay.
Bible college.
Yeah.
So yeah, like very nerdy. Like I wanted to learn everything and then teach it. So
Hmm.
it's yeah,
Um,
it's kind of
and
the height of nerdiness.
yeah, I suppose all your friends, whenever you were growing up, probably knew that you were pretty nerdy. Was that well accepted or not? Whenever it came to Bible things
Um,
and
High
friends.
school was actually like I had a small group of friends, like five that were also super Bible nerdy.
Okay.
Um, and then like after we moved on from high school and we all grew up like I think I'm the most Christian out of all of them still, which I think is kind of telling about like you hear so much about people saying that people leave Christianity because they want to sin. Like, no, these are the people that like were all in, and they're the ones that left because it stopped making sense, and they saw the holes. And a lot of times it was seeing the um, dehumanization that Christianity puts on others. It took me a lot longer to get there, which is good on them for seeing the signs sooner than me, but um, just how it ended up working out.
Yeah. It everybody has different reasons. I don't think wanting to sin is usually top of the list.
Yeah,
It
not
wasn't
normally.
mine. It wasn't mine. I was just asking, uh, you know, well, what Pilate asked, what is truth? And I
Hmm.
went down that rabbit hole trying to figure that out. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I don't think that this is true. Um, I'm open. I still leave 0.42% of belief open.
Hmm.
Uh, that number changes per podcast episode. But yeah, I mean, it's always I'm always open to like, oh shit, I was totally wrong about that. I'm
Hmm.
open to that, but generally speaking, no. But so so Bible college, where I grew up, Bible college was a place that you went to get a spouse, because a lot of people, we would joke about it at the state college, the university that I attended. We're like, oh, well, down the road, you go there, and within like maybe the first semester, but definitely within the first year, you're going to have some people that they got what they wanted to get out of that experience.
No, it's
So,
a
what was
ring
it
by
like for
spring or
you?
your money back.
Yeah, ring
Uh,
by spring or your money back.
yep.
Hold on, I have to type that out.
I
That's funny.
I made it uh to the summer after my junior year before I got engaged.
Okay,
So
good job. That
4 year
that
Bible
seems
college.
normal. Yeah.
Um, yeah, got engaged the summer before junior year. Got married the week before finals. Um, the halfway through my junior year. So um, yeah, wouldn't recommend that, but it ended up being okay.
Yeah. Depending on how elaborate you want to go on a wedding, it can be very taxing. Actually, just getting together for weekends with friends anymore is
It's
taxing. So, I mean, a wedding is hard enough, to do that and go to school.
well, luckily, like
Terrible.
me and my partner didn't really care too much about the wedding itself, but her parents did. So
Huh.
like they did a lot of the work. Um,
Good. That's always nice to have help.
yeah. Uh, but but yeah, I still wouldn't recommend right before finals. Yeah, I remember like I forgot to
Yeah.
turn in one of my final papers, and I was like called the professor. I'm like, sorry, I forgot to turn it in. Like it was on a Friday, and like I'm coming back from wedding rehearsal. I'm going to turn it in if you're still at your office.
Yeah.
I mean, he was okay with it. He was still there. He let me turn it in, even though it was a few hours late. But yeah.
I mean, one would expect a little grace at a Bible college, right? I mean, that you could always turn those screws if you needed to. Be like, what would Jesus do in this situation?
There's some professors that would like it wouldn't matter like that if they say turn it in by 3 p.m. and it's 3:15, then you're losing points. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a weird culture, Bible college, because you will have like those super like uh, genuinely good people like being professors. Um, eh, I don't agree with them on everything anymore, or I don't agree with them on most things anymore, but they are honestly trying to be good people. Um, I will say those types of people are the never Trump conservatives, even though they're still conservative. Um, and then there's the people that like went full in MAGA, and those were always the worst people who became professors. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to sit if I were to go back to school today if somebody was like that. I mean, college is just any institution of higher education is great because of the diverse perspectives that you usually
Mhm.
get introduced to, different people. For me, I grew up in a small Kansas town. So in some ways, even though I only went to college that was like 30 minutes away, it was an introduction to people of different colors that I'd never seen before. Right. I mean, that was like, oh, this is fun. Uh, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the diversity and being able to get introduced to that. So you want that diversity, and I wouldn't want to shut out like a conservative voice just because I don't agree with it. But if you're too far right, I don't think we're going to get along, and I'm probably going to plug my ears at some point.
Yeah, the worst one that I'm thinking of, I only took one class with him. Um, yeah, one class. It was a science course. It was literally theory of intelligent design. That was our science course. Uh,
Yeah, theory of
which
intelligent design, which
the theory
is
of
yeah, because the
um,
theory in science means something different than what apologists tend to make it out to be. So,
yeah,
um,
it was like to his credit, he tried to make it more focused on the science than I mean, I guess this isn't video. I just did air quotes for science. But the uh, like he tried to bring in as much science as he could, and
yeah,
it like looking back on it, like I kind of enjoyed it, but there were always flaws in a lot of the logic. Um, and then there was all like the very classic appeal to like you can believe these guys because the science community rejects them and which is kind of crazy like to an extent you can make the argument in some cases in certain areas like I would say I'm rejected by the majority of Christian theology, so you should look into what I'm saying. So like maybe
right,
it's
yeah,
hypocritical of me uh to be saying that that's bad science, but I don't know. There is a point where like looking for the counterculture of something like that is necessarily healthy. Like you should always look into multiple points of view. Clearly,
yes,
however,
absolutely,
like the fact that they are counter to the general public shouldn't be a reason why they're correct, but it can be a reason for you to look into it and evaluate it.
yeah.
Like it just, yeah.
Um, to kind of steel man that argument a little bit, there have certainly been people in history who brought up things,
Hmm.
Galileo, for example,
Yeah.
and would was not well received.
Hmm.
And the consensus of people thought that they were wrong. And then later, history proved them right. So the I get that. I understand that. But then there's a fine line there that I can't really
There definitely is.
find.
And
Yeah, a fine line between that versus persecution fetish, because that's what we're really talking about, right? It's like, well,
yeah, that's
because the world, I just did air
mhm,
quotes too on radio or on podcast, but yeah, because the world doesn't agree with us, then we must be right.
yeah.
And
I
persecution
and I think
fetish all
that
the way.
I think that's the biggest thing is they're looking for the persecution of like they're silencing us because they know we're right. And um yeah, that's just not always true. Especially in the United States. Like I hate to like there was this whole thing recently about that paper um that was vomited up in Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma or
Yes.
wherever
Yeah.
that like that entire appeal was an appeal to persecution, and it was terrible uh, theology at but it was also terrible academics. Like we kept getting angry at news articles that say that she cited the Bible. She didn't. She referenced the Bible. There's not a single citation. Wasn't even a single verse from what I could tell that was mentioned. So no citation. Which I, I was told in college that if I wrote a paper that needed citations, um, that if I didn't have a citation or a bibliography, then I was going to fail it. like uh, that was at
And
my Bible college. That paper would have failed at
yeah.
my Bible college, which was hyper conservative. like
Wow. Yeah. Not only that, but you had to have the citations, but then they had to be done in like the proper format, which I
yeah,
always hated. Um, so, uh, y- yeah, it just ties into the persecution. And of course, it's Oklahoma. And I grew up near Oklahoma. I've spent some times there. They used to have a Casa Bonita, but we won't get into that. If you've ever watched South Park. But the, it's very red, very it's mind-bogglingly red, and it never gets any better down there. So I don't know why they
Mhm.
continue to vote red. It's like they've gotten even more red since I've gotten older, and I'm like what? Your state's terrible. It's the bottom of everything for the most part. So, but yeah, let's just throw any kind of like standards for academics out the window. That sounds like a great plan.
And Oklahoma's been that place that has thrown out standards left and right. Like they've led the way in throwing out standards. And yeah,
Well, they should put that on a bumper sticker. We're leading the way in throwing out standards.
yep, they are number one in something. Let's give them that. You know,
True. Yeah. So after Bible college, and after now you're married, it's time to move on. You went on to seminary. So,
hmm
um, since you have the real experience, can you tell us the difference between, for the listeners, the difference between Bible college and seminary? I mean, Bible college like college, but just more of a Christian, I'm sorry, theological mindset while you're doing it, or is there
um,
more to it?
yeah, Bible college was like half college with like m- Christianized versions of like ethics classes and logic classes. Um, those were a couple things. Like we had to do public speaking, we had to take English, stuff like that. But then we also had, um, it took like theology and, depending on what your major was, you'd have specific classes for that. The seminary was all very much focused on what you were going for. So specifically, I started out with languages. I did Hebrew, then Greek, um, and did like classes specifically on translating entire books of the Bibles and then doing exegesis on it. Like a lot of intensive work with like hours of library time.
Yeah.
So very different from college. So I would say seminary, like seminary does, regardless of how conservative it is, if you apply yourself, you're going to learn what you need to really ask questions and come to solid enough answers, or recognize that maybe the question isn't a good question. Not chooses to do that. A lot of people will go there specifically for the recognition that they went to seminary so they can go on to be chaplains or preachers. And so it really depends on the person going there. I will say that like people coming out of seminary will be a very wide range of people, regardless of the level of conservative to liberal it is. But at the conservative ones, you're going to get the people that are like, yeah, I'm coming in to be a military chaplain, but I'm not going to perform gay marriages because that's against my beliefs, and the military can't make me do that. And like I so I also served in the military for 9
Oh,
years.
wow.
uh and uh, for me to hear that a chaplain isn't going to do a wedding for a service member because it's against their beliefs, like, I don't think you should be a chaplain. I don't think you should be anywhere around the military. I know our current our current administration would probably like promote that person quicker than normal because of their stances, because our Secretary of Defense is a right wing lunatic.
Sure.
um, but like, you have those people that do go there for the education to prop themselves up to be these conservative type people, and you have people that go there actually looking to learn. The ones that come to looking to learn, regardless of how conservative it is, tend to turn out to be okay people for the most part, at least until, you know, they get into wherever they're going into the world, and then they'll, you know, be influenced by their surroundings. But there is a reason why um, there is the saying that a congregation tends to be more conservative than their pastor. Um, in a lot of that has to do with the fact that pastors who do generally want to uh, understand the Bible and Jesus, they do tend to be a lot more caring and like care for immigrants and the poor and things like that. Um, but at the same time, because their livelihood is tied to appealing to conservative people, they often don't necessarily push those things that they believe in. So it's an entire broken structure, is kind of
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
Well, I have a friend, a long time. I mean, wow, so long that we've been friends. And she went through seminary. She's been a chaplain, been a minister, married to a minister. They, I mean, now I see her more as a preacher's wife than anything. Um, but very progressive, uh, uh, denomination. And she told me whenever I was going through my deconstruction and eventually did deconversion, and I came to her and I'm like, I'm going through a lot here, and she's like, and I said, did you ever deal with this? And she said, oh yeah. She said, whenever you go to seminary, you kind of forced to deconstruct, if you're being really honest with yourself, that you have to really tear down a lot of things. Now she's still a believer, but um, it really, I was like, huh, that's really interesting. I don't think that the average person knows that a lot of people that go to seminary, and I don't have data to back this up, but whatever. I hear enough anecdotal stories about people that they did go to seminary, and what they were taught in seminary was not necessarily what they were raised to believe,
Hmm.
or heard over the lifetime of their Christian experience. What was one thing? Surely there was one thing that really stood out to you that you were like, "Oh, this rocked my world."
I was introduced to John H. Walton, um, who is the Old Testament professor at Wheaton University, which is an evangelical college. But his work on um, Genesis and Adam and Eve were like completely reshaped how I understood creation and evolution and things like that. And really, it was just him being like, these are ancient documents, and they weren't looking to define scientific realities. They were looking to put meaning to the world around us. And then through that lens, talks about how Genesis 1 is uh, a it's a creation narrative, but like in the sense of it doesn't necessarily preach ex ex nihilo. I'm I'm
Yeah.
having trouble with this, but
Yeah.
creation out of
Creation
nothing.
ex nihilo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's talking a lot more about function and setting up function for the days, and that's how you get like day and night. It isn't necessarily like light and dark, because the way that it's worded is calls the day, uh, or calls the light daytime and the dark nighttime. And so really it's not establishment or creation of light and darkness. It's actually because it's named day and night, it's actually a creation of functionality of time between the two. And
Okay.
um and like the later on there's the creation of the sun and stars, and like it's not necessarily to say that those were then put in place. It's more to say like these now have the function of being signs, signs for like direction and things like that. Things that uh the moon and stars and are actually used for in the ancient world. And so he really lays out that it's about function, not necessarily creating things out of nothing. And he makes a really good argument for it.
Yeah.
Um, and then he also makes the argument that Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, like Genesis 1 is a creation narrative, but Genesis 2 should actually be read as a temple narrative, which are two different, two very different types of genre in ancient literature. And that you don't have to believe that Adam and Eve were the first people to be created, because um, the use of metaphor in ancient texts is meant to be understood as metaphor, not understood as literal. So, like Adam being created out of the dust it's literally just a parallel of literally every creation narrative where it means that he's mortal. Like other creation narratives have humans being created out of clay, out of dirt. Even in the Psalms, it says that. I think it's a Psalm of David who says that he was made out of, I want to say, clay. David wasn't actually, made out of clay. He was, born. But it's a
Can you prove
metaphor
that
for
isn't true? No.
yeah. Um, but yeah, like within ancient literature, it just means he was made mortal. Like that's all it means. And then the creation of Eve, the term that's used is Adam was put into a deep sleep, right? That's not the normal word used for sleep. That is only ever used elsewhere in the book of Genesis for a deep sleep in which somebody has a vision. The only difference is it doesn't say he had a vision; it just says he went into a deep sleep. Uh, so there is still the possibility that he had deep sleep and had a vision where literally God takes him and tears him into two pieces. That's what it's not a rib. It's like literally uh, took half of him and formed, the woman. And if you read it as a vision, then it's a metaphor for equality between men and women, and finding a suitable helper is like because of her equality to him. So you don't necessarily have to read it as this is how humans were formed. It's metaphorical in this, in like giving us something to think about. Like I said, it's wisdom. We're supposed to read it as a wisdom text. So yeah, John Walton, like he blew my mind when I started reading his stuff.
Okay.
Young Earth creationists and like
Hmm.
very literal Genesis. It's very literal on basically everything, except for things like it's easier for a rich or a camel to enter the eye of a needle than
Yeah,
than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. But we were told that the eye of a needle was like a hole in the wall that you could
yeah,
put your camel through. Like,
yeah.
no,
I
that
heard that
didn't
too.
exist.
Didn't
But
exist. Yeah.
yeah.
This is why I like the internet, because the early days, I well, that not that early, but I was still on DSL, so it was pretty. DSL was like a double dial up, basically, so it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
slightly faster, and
I'm a
I would get
millennial. I do remember
okay,
DSL.
okay, yeah. Well, I have to explain to my kids that we had to rewind tapes, and they, what the hell are you talking about? But what's a tape? But I would stumble across these like fact checking websites and started to learn a lot of things that I thought were true, because that's what I'd always heard. Just little things like gang members, if you don't flash your lights at another car that has their lights
Their
off,
headlights
because
off.
that's a yeah, it's a gang initiation thing, and it's just a bunch of urban legends and superstition. These are just modern day campfire stories that we tell each other to intentionally scare ourselves, which is funny. And so to read things like, oh no, there was no eye of the needle in the wall. There was no hole in the wall that they called the eye of the needle. It was literally talking about uh,
Literal needle.
literal needle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus was
Uh,
saying it was impossible. Like,
it was
you can't be
impossible. Yeah.
rich. Yeah, you
Hmm.
can't be rich and follow me. Like, that doesn't work. People get so mad on the internet whenever I bring that up. Like, because I'll bring up that Jesus tells the rich man to sell his things and give it to the poor, and people are like, no, he only said that to one person. That's not for everybody, and it wasn't his wealth that was sinful. It was his love of money, and it's like, it, yeah, it's a story that they decided to put into a book that they thought should apply to everybody. Like, to say that we eternalized this one story for this one person who died a couple thousand years ago. Yeah, it was only for him. That's weird because you don't do that
Yeah.
with anything else. But then to take it further, like Jesus literally says, it is impossible for a rich man to to enter the kingdom of God. So like, it's pretty clear. Like, you can blame the sin. You can say it's not the wealth that's sinful, it's the love of money. It doesn't matter. You don't get wealthy without a love of money. There are no
Uh,
ethical billionaires.
yeah. No, there really aren't. And I got into an argument, a discussion, if you will, aggressive negotiations with internet peoples yesterday about the snake in the Garden
Mm,
of Eden, and uh, so it and what you're talking about
I just saw
is
that.
context, right? It's all about context. Well, no, that story was only about the rich man was only for that context for that
Hmm.
story, and and then I'm like, okay, so the snake in the Garden of Eden was really just a talking snake. It's like, no, that's the serpent. That's the devil. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I
yeah.
mean, it depends if you include the context of the New Testament, but
Hmm.
if you look at it in isolation, just at the time, nobody at the I don't
Yeah, nobody
I
at
mean
the
I
time.
don't would have thought that. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some people that were connecting it. I think especially during um what we call the intertestamental period. There's some really the Greek influence on Judaism, but like it's an oral story. Like everything in Genesis is oral stories that were accumulated at some point in time, right? As an oral story, that was never implied that it was Satan. Actually, the concept of Satan didn't even exist for the majority of um, pre-exilic Judaism, which people have a really hard time with that concept. Like there is the concept of the shaitan in um, ancient Near East, but it's not like this divine thing all the time. So it's really complicated. It's uh, hard to get into, and people have really difficult time to wrap their head around. But like, yeah, they people would have started saying, yeah, the snake is the shaitan because it's the it's the accuser, it's the one that tricks, like because Shaitan became this way of like talking about a person or an entity that um is mischievous. Like that concept came before our concept of a Satan, which is really influenced by Zoroastrianism during the Persian exile. So
Right.
like uh, before the encountering of Zoroastrianism, like the concept of a Satan, a singular Satan, didn't
Mhm.
really exist. So like to
Right.
apply that to Genesis is uh, again just
A
taking it out of
stretch.
context. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
stretch.
Well, that's why I like to say that Christians take the Bible out of context all the time,
Yeah,
whenever
all
it's
the time.
convenient for them. Um, and and that's where I find it frustrating because it's like, well, you just need to read the Bible. Okay, I just read the Bible. I decided that I didn't believe it. Okay, well, you didn't read it in the right context.
You did.
Okay, well, what is the context I should be reading it? And I have a book over here. It's R.C. Sproul's How to Read the Bible. I like Sproul whenever I was a believer. I thought he was really interesting. I would listen to his radio programs and I mean, how nerdy is that? But and so
He's
I get it. I understand how you think, not you, but how
yeah, yeah,
the general Christendom thinks that the Bible should be read, and I don't go, well, you don't know the words. You got to, I'm like, great. Now we're getting into Islam territory where like you don't know
yeah.
the actual meaning unless can speak, the language fluently. And I'm like, I kind of always felt like the goalpost kept constantly moving.
It always moves.
Yeah.
As a person who does know the language somewhat, that still moves all the time. Um,
Yeah.
like, uh, do you mind if I do like kind of a topic shift here? Because
No,
it's gonna
please. Yeah.
lead
No.
into I need to advertise my book at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I was going to get to it. So don't worry. Yeah.
I know that you were, but also it's like
Yeah.
this is a good jumping off point. Like there's
Yeah.
so much in the Bible that uh people who do understand the language don't really want to look into it. Um, for example, I don't know if you got a chance to read a couple of the days in my devotional. Day 2 is about the language behind David dancing for the Ark of the Covenant, specifically in the book of Kings, not in Chronicles, because Chronicles actually updates the language to be more family appropriate. But the Hebrew used in that doesn't mean that Jesus danced and leaped before the Ark of the Covenant. Um, it it actually implies that he did a rhythmic movement, uh,
Oh,
and um, and that he he was kind of quote strong before the Ark of the Covenant. But if you read Hebrew or rabbinic literature, that word that is used for David dancing is only used one other time in the Bible, which is in Genesis, whenever Israel is blessing Joseph and he says your bow was strong. Ancient rabbis interpreted that as when Joseph was being tempted by Josephus, not Pot. No, oh my goodness, I'm getting names mixed up.
well, there's a lot of names, so it's fair.
Uh, the Egypt, the guy that had Joseph,
Yeah, the Pharaoh.
not Pharaoh. Is it Potiphar? That sounds right.
It does sound right, but again,
you
it's early
you're,
morning, and I've only had a
yeah.
little bit of caffeine, not enough. So
It. This is what happens whenever I start going like connecting too many things at once, and I start
if
forgetting it.
if only
Anyways,
there was a machine that we could just type
yeah.
into, and we can look it up real quick. I mean,
I'm feeling like it's Potiphar's life, but also,
yes, that
um,
sounds right.
yeah. Anyways, rabbinic literature says that being strong like a bow in like a bow and arrow
Uh-huh.
was actually a
Like a,
reference to him masturbating, so he didn't fall into temptation with somebody else's wife. So only other time that this word is used, rabbinic
uh-huh.
literature says that it means to masturbate. Um,
Okay.
and so if we apply that to the story of David performing an action in front of the Ark of the Covenant, a rhythmic motion that is interpreted elsewhere as masturbating. Like, it's very possible to understand this as David masturbated in front of the Ark of the Covenant as it was coming into Jerusalem, and it
As long
makes
as he didn't
sense.
touch it, he's fine.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
right?
and right, as long as he doesn't touch it. I don't know the rules on if he like jizzed on it. If is that like but like, and then Michal, his wife, who he stole from somebody else because he felt entitled to her, that's a whole thing. Gets mad at him because he did it in front of the slave women. Not like, and we read it as like, you made a fool of yourself in front of the slave women. No, like, that's really, it should have been like, if it was making a fool of yourself in front of people, it should be you made a fool of yourself in front of the nobles and the warriors that were there. Like, no, she specifically says the slave women, who probably would have seen that as a very sexually uh, abusive kind of situation where they were forced to watch the king masturbate to the Ark of the Covenant. So, like, there's stuff in the language that people don't want to look at in the
Yeah.
Bible that makes it really kind of interesting. So yeah, whenever people like, you need to understand the language. Okay, let's talk about the language, because there's a lot here that you don't want to address. That's one of them. Uh,
Well,
an,
I mean, even even without going too deep, most people don't even know the stories. I'm like, okay, Sodom and Gomorrah, God hates fags, blah blah blah. I'm like, that's a quote. That's not a personal opinion, because the Westboro Baptist Church is not
mhm.
far away, about 2 hours away, hour and a half from Kansas City, and fortunately, much quieter these days. But you know, like, did you one, that's not what that story's about. And
Mhm.
two, did you read the story after with Lot and his daughters? Like that's some that's some spicy shit that makes me want to throw up. So I
Yeah,
mean, people that's I wish people would actually read their Bibles before they go developing a position on a particular topic. And I'm not saying you have to know the whole Bible, but if you're going to pull up that
you should
argument, you
you
should,
should read the story.
yeah, should read the story.
Sodom and Gomorrah were condemned before that story takes place.
Fair point.
That wasn't the action that actually had them condemned, according to the story. They were already condemned, and then
Gosh,
um, the
damn, that's a great
messengers
point. Yeah,
the messengers go
because
there. Yeah, like,
yeah,
so
because
it
it was
wasn't
like
that action.
right. There was this whole thing about like, no, no, what would you will you destroy the city if it's? I mean, he goes through a long list. Like, let's see how far down we can get. If there's 100 righteous people or whatever, I don't remember the actual numbers at the moment, but if there's 100, okay, no, if there's 100, I won't destroy it. What about 50? Well, no, if there's 50, you keep going down, down, down. Yeah, right.
It
They,
gets
they were
down to like
totally
10.
condemned before. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like,
And so, but so this is in my devotional also. Something that's interesting is parallelism within Hebrew, where a phrase will be used in one sense, or used in one place and in another, and you're supposed to read them as meaning very similar things. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah, you have the messengers going to Lot's house, and it says specifically, when it came time for them to lie down, then the villagers, people in the village came, and they said, let us let us lie with them. And so they're literally asking to do the same thing that Lot is doing with them. So if we're going to take this, and it is meant to be very sexual, there is a way to read this that Lot was having an orgy with these messengers. That is a completely valid way to interpret the story, based off
uh-huh.
of the Hebrew. And then that's, the conclusion obviously is, it's sinful to go uninvited to an orgy. So you should definitely make sure that you're invited. Don't just show up. But
Yeah, and I'll
yeah,
put a
like,
link, of course, in the show notes. But the name of the book is On Your Knees: The 69-Day Irreverent Devotional, which I
mhm,
find hilarious
yeah.
personally. So
And I
I,
will
I
say,
look
like,
forward to reading it.
yeah, it's like, I hope that you enjoy it if you're a Christian. I think that it probably appeals more to people who aren't necessarily Christian but were raised in Christianity. It's definitely going to give you like a new way of looking at certain things. Uh, and I say this in the like forward for the book, like it's not meant to be like you should come back to believe in the Bible because it's cool. No, it's like this is a book of wisdom that has some really funny things in it. Also has some really like encouraging things. You know, some of the things I put in there are funny, like I just talked about, but there's also like really encouraging things. Like, I use the story of Hagar, where um, in that story, she's raped. Her child is supposed to be kidnapped from, stolen from her, but then because her rapist has a baby with his wife, she gets sent away to die. Like she she is the marginalized, oppressed, abused person, and God still blesses the rapist. And that's something that very few people actually deal with. But in the story of Hagar, it in like there's two verses where it's like after she's like rescued um and finds water, supposedly rescued by God. Like, great, you found her water.
Yeah.
Can you have done something a little bit before that? But so they didn't die. But it says that she found a wife for her son. And in the context of the ancient Near East, a slave woman finding a wife for her son means that she did something to gain enough prestige, to gain enough recognition, to be able to be the person that advocated to get her son a wife. Like she made something of herself. And so like the point that I make in that in the devotional is like sometimes like God blesses the oppressor. We got to deal with that. Be like Hagar and say fuck all that. I'm going to make my own blessings. And she did. And sometimes that was what we got to do. So like there's funny stuff, there's also encouraging stuff. Um and there's
Yeah.
some stuff that's just like now you just got to deal with knowing this piece of information.
Yeah, yeah, sorry for the TMI, but it's there and now you gotta deal with
Yeah,
it. I mean,
yeah.
I am reading through, with the only kid that will sit with me. So we do basically a chapter a night, so it's gonna take us forever because I also wanted to include the, deuterocanonical
Hmm.
books that I was never exposed to, so I'm actually pretty excited to get to them. So I have this Catholic study Bible, that we
Nice.
read from, and, uh and as much as I like to shit on the Bible and some of the really awful parts, we just, we're in First Samuel right now, and we just
Hmm.
went through Ruth. That took 2 days, fortunately. Because it's a very short book. But overall, there may be like a couple of things that made me go ick, But
Hmm.
overall, it's a pretty, it's a pretty nice story, and even she agreed that she was like, yeah, she liked the story of from the Book of Ruth, and so I do still find value in some things. So occasionally, I'll rattle off a quote that still is wisdom. You have not because you ask not. That's a great one. It's like, I mean, it which I think applies without any deity involved.
Yeah,
You don't have what
definitely.
you want because you haven't spoken up and said that you haven't advocated for yourself, for instance, right? And so,
Hmm.
great short little verse. Thanks, Paul. Like it. And
Yep.
don't like some of your other stuff. So I would agree with you that you can find wisdom in it. And that's why I think sometimes people are confused. Like, why does an atheist read a Bible? And I'm like, I thought you'd wanted me to read the Bible. So I'm reading the Bible and I'm picking the wisdom out of it that I like. I'm not a big fan of punching like an awl through somebody's ear to designate them my slave, but I am a pretty good advocate of a big fan of treating other people the way you would want to be treated. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good. So let's go with
Yep.
that. If we could get to that point in society where we agree that we should deal or we should adopt the better parts, discard the rest, and
Hmm.
also not force it upon other people, then I wouldn't have a problem. That would be fine. In fact, I'd probably join in the conversation.
Yeah. And like I keep coming back to this. The point is to bring wisdom to the book. It's not to turn your brain off, which is what I think a lot of Western Christianity really tries to do is like, you don't have to think, the Bible tells you what to think. And that's,
Right.
um, like, in some ways that is denial of the Holy Spirit because um which I have various feelings on the concept of the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit or the Spirit of God is meant to be this manifestation of wisdom within humanity. That's what the Spirit of God is. It's the Sophia. It's wisdom that comes from God. In order to have the wisdom that comes from God, you have to actually use your brain and engage in wisdom, not engage in memorization or engage in proof texting. So there's a lot of, in my opinion, that's denial of the Holy Spirit um in modern Christianity, where it's turning off your brain to look for what you're supposed to believe and say and things like that, and not supposed to critique scriptures or bring morality to the scriptures, because we're not supposed to uh think that we know better than God. Like, no, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. Like, do bring your morality to the Bible and be like, this was messed up. Like, killing the women and children, that is a genocide. Uh the You're supposed to like actually consider these things through your own understanding. And I know that Christians say, no, you're not supposed to rely on your own understanding. Yeah, the point is to go further and be like, I don't know everything yet. Like, you're supposed to engage and like uh using uh using the word of God to increase your own understanding. Again, it's meant to be engaged with wisdom so you can get better. Doesn't mean you don't turn it doesn't mean you turn off your understanding and view of the world. It just means that like you're actually supposed to continue working to be better.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, and I'd be cool if we could, just go along and just try to be better without necessarily insisting, absolutely insisting, but it depends on who's doing the insisting, I've found out. So what does life look like for you today? You went through seminary and then, you still have a semblance of faith. Uh, is that accurate?
it's accurate. It's more that like it's kind of like I feel tied to a tradition that I feel responsible for. In the sense of like, I was raised Christian. It was the tradition I was given. It's also the tradition that's creating the most harm in the United States. Um, and I feel a sense of responsibility to um, stand in that tradition, to call it out, to talk about its bigotry, about its hypocrisy, and things like that. And so, like, I feel like I feel like I still have room in this tradition to keep going. Um, that I could care less if Jesus is God or like the Trinity is real, like that type of stuff. I do know that like everything that Jesus stood for is anti what Christianity is now. Um, and that is enough for me to be like, yeah, I still trying to follow Jesus, uh, because I think he's a pretty smart guy. Maybe he was God. Um, but like that also wasn't necessarily the point of him coming uh and like teaching all this stuff, was to like insist that you found the right God. It has a lot more to do with liberation from an oppressive empire. uh I mean, obviously there's a lot more to that. Like we would have to get into the differences in how we should understand the gospel from how I think we should understand it, as a counter way of creating a counter style of living that is outside of the empire, and how the gospels have become a tool of the empire. But yeah, like, so I still find there is stuff to do and learn within this tradition, and so that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. You know, with the start of the podcast, you talked about third century, so and about how things kind of took hold. Um, it's really easy to get things to spread through the tip of the sword, I think,
Yeah, it is.
and which is. I wish Christians would acknowledge that the reason why Christianity spread was not because it was so amazing. It was, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it was back then. I don't know, but uh, it was because of imperial power that was spreading it. And it's really, if you're forced to be a believer because, it's either that or, I've seen some of these torture devices. They're amazing. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? All of a sudden I've changed my mind.
Hmm.
I've decided not to be pulled apart on a rack, that I think that I would, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll start
yeah,
going to church. How much do you need for tithe? I'm good to go.
exactly. But like, I like Lord of the Rings. A lot of people do. Lord of the Rings existed because J.R. Tolkien was like, we don't have any mythology for where we came from. I'm going to write some. Yeah, I mean, there was no British mythology because it was colonized like so much by Christianity that it lost its traditions and lost its sense of who they were. Um, and that was Christianity that did that. Granted, they became the colonizer and stuff, uh, which is can happen quite a bit. Is the colonized become the colonizer, and vice versa. It's happened throughout history. But yeah, like the Christianity does a lot of times be like Islam is so evil because they do convert or die type things. Yeah, Christianity did that before Islam. That's kind of part of the history. Like a lot of people have done that. You can't if you're going to say Islam is evil because of that, so is Christianity. Like, uh,
I mean,
you
the Old
gotta.
Testament is literally a story of these
Yeah.
people believing that their God told them to go to another country. Well, it wasn't a country, it was different back then, but
Yeah.
go to another region in the area and take it because God told us so. And, to slaughter everyone if they didn't, it was a join or die. Oftentimes it was just die, but, and that seems to be the predominant way to get a religion to really
To take.
proliferate. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, you and I were talking about starting, about individual thoughts about like religion and stuff, and I said, yeah, I was thinking about starting a religion. I wouldn't do it that way. I'd choose like a different approach. So
Yeah.
I just want the tax breaks on the buildings. That way I can house some homeless people,
That's fair.
particularly in the cold months, because I drive by tons of them. I'm in the Midwest. You know how many fucking churches there are here? More than Starbucks, which is wild.
Yeah.
And you drive by and empty parking lots, nobody's doing anything, lights are off, and I'm like, "Phew, man, just think, it is what is the temperature today? Is a wonderful 36 degrees, and I'm sure I could go to any church right now up in my area, and I guarantee you the doors are locked, so there's nobody there. So,
I mean,
um,
maybe join there. So there are four uh churches that practice psychedelic mushrooms. Maybe you could join them, get those
okay,
tax breaks, and then
yeah,
also have government protected psychedelic mushroom um rituals. So
yeah, that does sound
just an
like a good
idea
plan. Yeah, I'm not opposed to the shrooms. So, they I mean, I've never taken enough to see psychedelic, like really trippy things, but it did make the window of depression close for like months at a time. It's a treatment, so it's an amazing treatment
yeah,
that I and
I I'm very pro mushroom also.
yeah, yeah. The
But
first time after I took it, I was like, "Oh, this is why it's illegal because you can't make any money off this, and it works pretty damn well." So,
mhm.
all right. So, what's uh, when did the book come out? By the way, how long's it been out?
It came out in October. I've
Okay,
been just awful at like advertising it. So maybe I'll try to advertise it more this new year.
okay.
Yeah.
I hope it blows up. I hope that
I do
somebody
too.
gets really mad. I mean, maybe we could mention. a at mention a really conservative person that would just
Just
says
get
you
super.
should boycott it, because I love every time a religious person boycotts something,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's almost guaranteed success. And they haven't figured this out yet. It's like, if you just shut your mouth, then this. I mean, that's the whole reason I went to go see the movie Sinners, is because
Uh-huh.
there were so many weird ass evangelical Christians talking about how satanic it was. And I told the wife, I'm like, hey, I've been hearing a
We
lot
gotta
of
go
good
this.
things about this movie.
Yeah.
Gotta go. and,
I haven't seen
and I,
that one yet, and I keep telling myself I need to. I am going to.
oh,
I need
yeah,
to.
it was so
But it was
good.
the same
And
with what was it, Black Mass, or it was like a Netflix series, miniseries or something, uh that is a vampire story.
okay.
It was good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I also the Christians were mad about it.
Yeah. What was what was really great about Sinners is that the theater was mostly black people, and then
Mhm.
my wife and I are both crackers, and so we're there, and I'm enjoying this because I'm getting to like see things from a kind of a different perspective,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, this is my time to be silent and observe and soak things in. And then at the end the credits are rolling, and I'm like, okay, well, time to gather up. And this woman that was sitting next to me, she looked at me and she's like, you're going to want to stay because there's stuff past the credits. And I was like, oh, well, thanks for the inside baseball. That's great. She's like, actually, there's two little things past the credits. There's one, and then there's another one. So you're going to want to stay for that. So obviously, one, she saw the movie. She already knew about this. And then two, she was willing to tell me this inside baseball just because I showed up and didn't say anything in one listen. That's how I interpreted it, the interaction. And it was worth it. It was so worth
Okay.
hearing that extra stuff. And because I think that I would have probably just went home and never saw the rest of it. So
Hmm.
I
So I'll
highly
make sure
recommend you.
I'll watch it here in the
Yeah.
next couple weeks. I won't
Okay.
have the theater experience, but still,
Okay.
definitely need to watch it.
Well, I have enjoyed our our conversation today, talking about how theological. See, unfortunately, I don't always edit these things, so sometimes the mistakes will come in. But anyway, theology should be sexy, which is the tagline on your. You've got website and Substack and all sorts of fun things to poke around the edges.
Yep.
Unintended? No pun
Trans,
intended.
but yeah, I'm transvangelical on everything. There are
Okay.
things I'm not necessarily active on that I've gotten on there and taken the handle just because I don't want anybody else to take it. So,
Yeah,
so
I
if
get
you're
that.
on like, I don't know, Spoutable or something like that, and you see the handle like that is technically me. I'm not really there, but yeah, I've
What is
been.
spoutable?
It
Is that
popped.
a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. It popped up whenever like people were leaving Twitter the second time.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the mass exodus from Twitter is the different mass exoduses. Um, Blue Sky Blue Sky got more popular than Spoutable. Um,
Okay.
and
Which
yeah,
to me is still not. I don't find a lot of value in it, but
well,
it seemed cool. It seemed cool at the beginning.
yeah, it's good for people who don't need algorithms. Um, but whenever you're like a content creator and trying like part of Transvangelical, like, inside scoop here, I try to get followers because that means more people read my stuff and or uh whatever, and then that gets, part of what I do is try to get traction, and that's just true for anybody who's actually trying to make content. uh it, and so like the lack of algorithm is rough for content creators on Blue Sky. um I've mostly moved to Threads, and I know that it's meta, I know it's evil, but it has the best algorithm. um it's not completely uh it's not completely fascist like Twitter is. Like we're even getting to the point where a lot of a lot of right wing people are leaving Twitter because it's fascist spots, and
Yeah.
yeah, so like they're coming to threads, and then like people on threads are like block them, and yeah. So it's
Yeah,
it
it's a it's a terrible time for information,
it it is.
because one, there's a lot of misinformation. Two, there's a lot of AI slop, and then you have these platforms that are, their main goal is to make money. That's what it comes down to. So if something is more outrageous, then it's probably going to get more clicks, which usually boils down to advertising revenue in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Although Meta has figured out ways to expand into more than just advertising revenue, but generally, it's usually just advertising. And so the more is always better. And I really hate it. I mean, because I sometimes you just want to have a dialogue and have a conversation. And I think that these social tools often manipulate emotions. I've
Mhm.
noticed, like, I went to a concert and posted about it, and then you start seeing some more concert related stuff, and then for a while, and then it kind of dissipates. And I'm like, I'm fascinated by the algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Sleep Token, who is one of my favorite bands, they have a
Oh,
lyric that talks
you're
about,
one of the sleep
I
token people.
I am, yeah. Yeah. They have a lyric and it says half algorithm, half deity, and I was like, yeah, I get that, right? I mean, that's how it kind of feels. And you can apply that to just about anything these days, that it does feel almost godlike. And then at the same time, there's this technological component, and it's just a matter of time before syncretism, we start worshiping the computers. Um,
Yeah,
that makes sense
Motionless
to
in
me.
White. Motionless in White has a song about that also. I'm a big
Yeah.
Motionless in White fan.
Okay. Yeah. They
So
they came through. They came through last year, and there was a conflict. I think it was last year. The last time they came through Kansas City, there was a conflict with another show, and I was like, "Damn it," because yeah, those
also
guys are
I
fantastic. So
also love like Chris Motionless like lives rent free in Ronnie Radke's mind, and I love that. Like
yeah,
the
it is funny.
the
Yeah.
more that Ronnie Radke like hates somebody, like the more I like them, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, see, I think he's kind of like a personification of an algorithm change where, like, he
Mhm.
starts fights to just try to maybe get a little bit more
That's
attention or something
yeah.
like that, which is fine. We're all trying to get a little bit more eyes on whatever we're saying, and he's a content creator technically.
Yeah, he's
So that makes sense.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, living rent free in people's heads.
Yeah,
That's
it's
that's
great.
fun. That's a fun
I
goal,
live rent free in a lot of people's heads, which is it's nice.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it can be nice as long as you're safe, and that's the main thing. So,
And that's why I don't use my real name.
yep, nothing wrong with that at all. So, we don't need to let everybody know everything.
Exactly.
They could just, that's kind of the beauty of the internet, that whenever you can show people kind of what you feel most comfortable showing, and then if you decide to let things out later, that's up to you.
Mm,
But can I ask you one more question? I know
yeah, of
we're
course.
we're almost to time, and I want to be respectful. But if you still have a belief in a deity, right? So why?
Um, so in my mind, whatever the greatest thing, this is kind of based off of Ansel. What is his name? Came up with the anthropic or the ontological argument. Whatever, whatever the greatest thing is, that's what God is. And so to me, um,
Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking
yeah, to me, the universe it is made up of atoms, e- like yeah, like atoms, like electrons, neutrons, and things are as small as they possibly can to as big as they possibly can be, and it all creates one unit that possibly started at one point in time. But um, just like our cells exist within us, but are also their own kind of entity in what they are, and then inside of cells, there's even smaller things that exist. In the same way, it doesn't just stop at us. We are a smaller part of what is existing on Earth, what is moving through our galaxy. And so, in my mind, at minimum, God is the universe because the universe is constantly developing, maturing, and is actually becoming more and more self aware as time goes on, which I think is, at minimum, that's what God is. There could be more. I don't necessarily know.
More like a
That's
deist perspective, then,
yeah, like
would you say?
it's like the possibility of deism, pantheism at minimum. Like it's kind of weird to
Okay. Yeah.
like normally people would think that like pantheism is like above deism, and it's like no, it's to me it's kind of a lot. Uh, it's a lot more basic than that. Like we're all connected because we're all part of the same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of the
this is
creators I
gonna
watched,
sound
he says he says, well, there's either no gods or there's all of them, is how he puts it, and so I think that's where I need to learn more about the ideas around pantheism, and I don't want to speak from any level of expertise, but I see value in all the ideas of different
Mhm.
gods and different practices and things of that nature. And so that make that if that's what it is, then okay, yeah, sounds great. You know, so I'm
But I
sorry. I
mean,
hope I didn't interrupt you there.
no, you're good. But yeah, but part of my view of like the universe is God at minimum is like the idea of like we aren't just ourselves. We're not just individuals, but we are part of the universe that is maturing, and that does give us a responsibility to not just each other, but to the world around us, to everything that we are part of, because we are part of a system. The universe is a system, and we are all like ensuring that that system continues. It's not, we are not as individualistic as what we might want to think.
That's true. I mean, I, you find people or you meet people that either A, look like you, which is weird, or B,
Yeah.
they're kind of like you, or maybe like somebody else that and that like personality types, for instance, I think are interesting. I don't make them a religion like the Enneagram people do, but it is kind of funny how you can kind of boil people down into little buckets, and that it's not just chaos like the systems lead to endless personality types. It's like, no, it kind of really boils down to like a handful for the most part. So I think it's interesting to think about. I'm not here to really debate this topic with you.
Yeah.
I was just curious about how you thought, because clearly you're not a creationist, so that that would take you outside of that realm.
I mean,
um
like, I'm not opposed to finding out that there is some intelligence behind the universe, but like, there doesn't have to be also. Like, at the end of the day, um, like we're responsible to each other. And that should be enough. You shouldn't have to believe in a God and believe in an afterlife to actually, you know, care about another person. Like,
I would hope not.
yeah,
I
like
mean,
people exist, and existence should have meaning in and of itself. So we should be responsible to other people, not to an impersonal God that you claim is personal.
oh, I love that. That's great, because I really hated it. I hated the term even when I was a Christian. Of that,
The
it's not a religion, it's a relationship. I'm like,
relationship. All right,
listen, I gotta tell you,
it's an abusive
this is weak
relationship.
sauce. Yeah, well, yeah, or it's yeah. I mean, when do I
It's
hear from him? Sometimes,
maybe when you think that you did, but
right.
yeah, and then but
If I text someone 30 times and I get one response back. And let's say these are normal texts, just like
yeah,
random, like this is over the course of a year. I've sent 30 texts and I've had one back. At what point do you go, maybe this relationship isn't
maybe it's
working.
not healthy. Like,
Yeah, maybe
but
it's
at
not
the same
healthy.
time,
Yeah,
if you in the relationship, then that person that only sends you one text is going to send you to hell for an eternity. Yeah, that's an abusive relationship. Let's just
it is.
we
Yeah,
got to
I'm,
call it
I'm
what
done
it
with the relationship.
is.
Yeah. I like that. Well, thank you so much for hopping on today.
Yeah, of
And
course.
this the last day of the shitty year. And I hope your 2026 is good. I do not think it will be. I think it will be bad for all of us. And
I
that's why I'm setting this bar really goddamn low at this point. So that way, if anything good happens, and we all know what the one thing that would all
one
make
thing
us really happy is the one thing. If anything good happens, then icing on the cake at that point, right? Mm, I'll do. Is icing better than cake? That's a whole different discussion.
that
Probably could
that
do a podcast on that.
there's very few icings are actually better than the cake.
I'll have to think about this. I might think about this more than I think about God. So,
There can be like I guess that depends on the cake also because there can be like really dry, gross cake, but and then the frosting is better. But
yeah,
generally, really like soft cake is better than any icing.
that's true.
Yeah, that's a
All
different
right. All right.
podcast. But
It is.
fingers
Yeah.
crossed for 2026 that it happens.
Okay. Well, there's just well, we'll hopefully we can touch base and see how the
Yeah. Well,
end of the year
I'll come
rolls
back
out.
on. I'll
So,
come back on and once it happens, and yeah, we'll
and
talk then.
we will have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah.